The redemption story is finally nearing its end. All the protagonists have found happiness together. 2. I'm happy with the devoted second male lead I tricked into staying, until one day, I accidentally broke my husband's old music box. The 5-year-old son's face instantly darkened as he trotted out the door with his little backpack. I hurried to stop him. He pouted and said, "Mommy, you're done for. You broke the music box Daddy's white moonlight gave him. He's definitely going to settle the score with you when he gets back." I pouted, my face full of disbelief. He continued, "Don't doubt me. I'm no longer that naive and innocent baby from before. I've been reborn. I'm a baby who's eaten 5 more years of meals than you. In my past life, Dad had a huge fight with you over this music box. You stormed out in anger and died in a car accident. He was so obsessed with his white moonlight that he neglected my basic needs. And I ended up a filthy little beggar starving to death under a bridge. So, Mommy, this time your baby is definitely going to be smart and run away first. Once I get settled, I'll come back to pick you up." As he spoke, his chubby little legs took a step, but the weight in his backpack was so heavy that he almost stumbled from the momentum. I instinctively reached out to help, then suddenly noticed with sharp eyes that the zipper on his little backpack wasn't closed properly, revealing a red tip inside. I gradually darkened my expression. As I expected, inside the bag was a stack of property deeds and a large wad of cash. Furious, I put my hands on my hips. "Jasper, did you have too much to eat today? How dare you take the family's property deeds? Just you wait. When your dad gets home, I'm definitely telling on you." I was so angry that I couldn't help muttering under my breath, "What does a little brat who hasn't even learned all his characters know about reincarnation?" Kids love to talk nonsense, and Jasper, inheriting his father's intelligence, has been making up wild stories about his dreams ever since he started recognizing words. Last time, he even told me he turned into Ultraman and went to save the world. I didn't take his words seriously. After locking the property deed in the safe, I gave him a good lecture. By evening, George came home, and I instinctively asked for a hug while helping him take off his suit, coquettishly saying, "Honey, your sweet wife has already drawn the bath for you." He gently kissed my cheek. "Thank you, sweetheart." Just like before, he went to take a bath while I tidied up the things in his pockets. Jasper is quite the little mischief maker, always playing pranks like stuffing scary toys into George's pockets. Sure enough, a toy snake was immediately pulled out from the suit pocket. I cast a disdainful glance toward the children's room. TSK, with such childish hobbies, and still claiming to be reborn. I took out the toy snake and pulled out my phone. Just as I placed the phone on the coffee table, the darkened screen suddenly lit up, displaying the latest message. "Bro, I want a divorce. Can you help me? Sender, Wendy." I froze, my gaze lingering in the direction of the bathroom. Wendy is the adopted daughter of the Green family. She's also the bold and passionate female lead in this story. During all these years I've been abducting George. She and the male lead have been in a love-hate relationship, finally culminating in a perfect marriage last month, but they're already talking about divorce after just 1 month. I sat silently on the sofa, having never heard that the main couple would have this kind of nonsense later on. Suddenly, I remembered what my son had said during the day. My mind wandered to the music box. I quickly got up and rummaged through the trash to find today's garbage. After digging for a long time, I finally managed to pull out the music box. These kinds of music boxes, which represent heartfelt sentiments, usually have names engraved on the bottom or somewhere else. I looked for a while and finally spotted the signature in the corner on the left side. "Wendy." This sudden news struck my heart. I didn't even notice someone standing behind me. "Honey, why are you digging through the trash?" I was so startled that I dropped what I was holding, turning around in a panic. George's gaze lingered on the music box for a second before immediately pulling me into his arms, his voice soothing as he comforted me. "Honey, are you feeling unwell somewhere? It's all my fault for working overtime so much lately and neglecting you and our son. My workload is almost done. Didn't you always say you wanted to see the northern lights? We can go next Monday. The kindergarten is on break, so we can take Jasper with us." His voice grew increasingly gentle with each word. I froze for a few seconds, then placed the music box in my hand before his eyes and apologized very sincerely. "I'm so sorry, honey. I accidentally broke something of yours while cleaning your study today. It really was an accident," but I was also secretly observing his expression. He glanced at the music box without changing his expression, shook his head, and said, "It's fine." after taking it from my hands. He threw it back into the trash can. He also had a meeting to attend. Taking advantage of his meeting, I sneaked into the children's room. Jasper, who was fiddling with his toys, glanced back, snorted angrily, and continued playing. I ingratiatingly placed a new toy in front of him and forced a fake smile as I praised. "Wow, Jasper, is that a little rabbit you're playing with? It's so adorable as expected of my son. Your artistic talent is off the charts." Jasper gave me a sidelong glance and, with a straight face just like his dad, uttered a few words. "It's a little mouse." The smile on my face froze, and after an awkward chuckle, I unwrapped his new toy, a complete set of the new Ultraman. I said very seriously to Jasper, "What's wrong? Still mad at mommy? Don't you even believe in light anymore?" A child who doesn't believe in light isn't a good baby. Jasper remained expressionless, but his small eyes occasionally glanced at Digga. Before long, he gave in. Playing with his new toy and moving his chubby little legs to make room for me to sit down. As soon as I sat down, I started asking about what happened during the day. Jasper pouted and said, "Oh, didn't you say you didn't believe in me? Why are you asking me now? I'm just a 5-year-old kid who can't even read all the words yet. How can you trust what I say?" He's got a whole set of arguments. I listened in a daze and silently gave a thumbs up. That foul temper really does take after his grumpy dad. When George returned to the bedroom, I was opening a novel to search for stories about babies being reborn. After searching for a long time, I only found a few. I had just started reading when I saw George trying to seduce me. He took off his shirt, revealing his sexy 8-pack abs. I wiped away the drool and turned my head, speaking very seriously. "What are you doing? What are you doing? I still have something to tell you. Put your shirt back on." George was unusually enthusiastic today. With just a few strokes, he stirred my desire. In no time, my consciousness began to blur. He had just opened the cabinet and pulled out a small box when an unexpected phone call came through. It stood out vividly in the ambiguous night. Blushing, I gave him a gentle push. George got up with an extremely foul expression and took the phone. The moment he saw the caller ID, his face visibly froze. I sensed something was wrong and, without caring whether I was dressed or not, immediately got up and leaned in close to the phone. The call was from Wendy. As soon as the call connected, her voice came through, choked with sobs and gasping for breath. Her crying was heartbreaking, and I instinctively looked at George. His expression didn't change much. He just remained silent for a few seconds before asking, "Where are you now?" Wendy sniffled and spoke with a sob. "I'm at the coffee shop near my university where you used to visit me often. Bro, can you come quickly? I'm a little scared." He gave a in response, and the moment he hung up, he turned to look at me. I waved generously and said with a smile, "It's fine, go ahead. It's not safe for her to be out alone this late." I lay down and pretended nothing had happened, continuing to sleep. Before long, there was the faint rustling sound of someone getting dressed. With a pang of sorrow, I touched where my heart would be. I never expected that even after so many years of marriage, George still held a place for the female lead in his heart. Before I could even figure out how to fight for custody, my entire body was suddenly lifted up. I froze for a moment, instinctively tightening my arms around the man's neck. He dressed me while explaining, "I'm not at ease leaving you home alone." Before heading out, he casually wrapped me in a trench coat, a khaki one. Matching his as a couple's set, Wendy was visibly shocked the moment she saw me and angrily demanded, "Bitch." I called my brother over. "What are you doing here?" I blinked. Is this the female lead of this story? How dare you call a law-abiding citizen a bitch? She was about to curse more when George coldly interrupted. "Wendy, she's your sister-in-law." He was radiating coldness, clearly displeased. I pouted. Feeling a little happier inside, Wendy was instantly speechless. Looking at her brother in shock, he had never scolded her before, yet now he was treating her this way for another woman. She wanted to cry, but she didn't forget what was important. She immediately threw herself into George's arms, sobbing and crying, "Brother, I don't want to marry Sam anymore. I don't want to marry him. I regret it." George's hand remained frozen in midair for a long time. Seeing the person in his arms crying uncontrollably, he tentatively patted her back to comfort her. Just one pat, and Wendy clung to him even tighter. "I'm so jealous," glaring at George angrily. Seeing them let go of each other the next second, I finally showed a smile. Wendy was still crying, tears flowing as if they cost nothing. Her relationship with the male lead had been progressing quite well. so I was still quite curious and blurted out without thinking, "So what exactly happened between you and Sam? Did he stop loving you? Or did you stop loving him, when it comes to the point of divorce?" It usually means one side has lost their feelings. She stopped crying and glared at me angrily. "None of your business." After saying that, she turned to look at George and asked coquettishly, "Bro, Mom and Dad are still mad at me. Can I go home with you? If you won't take me in either, I'll really have nowhere to go." She gazed at George with teary eyes. Since childhood, this older brother has always doted on her the most. "It's not very convenient," George refused without a second thought. Hearing these 4 words, I quietly praised myself. During these years of marriage, I've done my fair share of gaslighting. At first, I gaslighted him by saying I was his girlfriend, the one who would spend my life with him, while others just saw him as a disposable tool. He knew I was referring to Wendy, but I didn't care. After we got married and I became pregnant with Jasper, I kept gaslighting him daily, saying that our son and I were the most important people in his life. And others were just passers-by. It seems the effect is still quite good now. Wendy's expression froze, as if caught off guard, and she immediately accused me. "Was it you who instigated my brother? You're really scheming. I've known him for decades. How long have you even known him?" Hearing this, I pouted, utterly disdainful. "Sister, you've only known her for a little over 20 years. But I'm the one who's going to spend a lifetime with her. Can you even compare?" I wouldn't dare say that. People these days are so full of anger. I'm afraid if she gets mad and feels hopeless, she might just decide to kill me. In the end, George came up with a temporary solution. He booked her a hotel room and said they'd deal with everything else tomorrow. On the way home, George was driving while I idly played Candy Crush on his phone to pass the time. I hadn't played many rounds when a new message popped up. "Bro, I think John is targeting me a bit. Can you divorce her?" John is my name in this world. I silently looked at the man who was driving attentively. "What's wrong?" The man noticed the gaze and turned back to ask in confusion. I instinctively wanted to show him the message on my phone, but the next second, the message was recalled. All George could see was a "message recalled" interface. He asked, "What did she post?" "Nothing." I took back my phone and switched back to the game interface. Outwardly, I was playing with my phone, but inwardly, I couldn't stop thinking about that sentence Wendy had sent. In George's eyes, Wendy is just a spoiled rich girl who loves to throw tantrums. Her earlier rude remarks were just thoughtless words spoken in a bad mood. George glanced a few times and steered the car in the opposite direction. I looked up in confusion, and he spoke first. "Honey, didn't you say that eating hot pot and drinking milk tea can make you feel better when you're in a bad mood?" I'm not in a bad mood though." "Then it must be me who's in a bad mood. Honey, can you cheer me up?" Early the next morning, Wendy barged into Green's house carrying a bunch of bags. She commanded the housekeeper with the air of a mistress. "Lucy, could you please take my luggage to the room on the far left of the second floor?" "Lucy, I'm hungry. After you put the suitcase away, go make me some breakfast first." It wasn't until she had been giving orders for quite some time that she noticed me standing on the second floor. Awakened by the commotion, I kept a cold face, looking like I hadn't woken up properly. She, turned around, turned on the TV, and sat on the sofa cracking melon seeds. As soon as George came out from washing up, he saw my dark expression and instinctively wanted to kiss me to cheer me up. I kept a cold face, turned my head away, and reminded him, "Go take a look at your precious little sister." I rarely lose my temper, but yesterday was such a hassle that I didn't get to sleep until almost 3 a.m. It's only a little past 7 now, so I've only slept for a little over 4 hours. He froze. Only then noticing Wendy on the sofa, Wendy spotted him at a glance. Pouting angrily as she stormed upstairs and recounted every detail of what had happened after we left yesterday. In short, Sam had found her and tried to forcibly take her back to that shabby little house. If not for the security guards stopping them yesterday, she would have been taken away. She said with grievance, "Brother, the hotel isn't safe, and Mom and Dad won't let me in, so I had no choice but to come here." She spoke very sincerely, not even glancing at me. The commotion here was quite loud. My son sleepily came out of the children's room, and the moment he saw Wendy, his eyes widened. He let out a scream, crying and shouting, "Wow, it's the white moonlight. Here she comes, walking with her suitcase." "Mommy, I told you yesterday we should have left early, but you didn't believe me. Now look, we're about to be kicked out of the house and become stinky beggars." He was so angry that he blamed me for yesterday's failed escape. George frowned, completely baffled. Wendy didn't quite understand either, but upon hearing the words, white moonlight, she clearly knew they were referring to her. Online, they say those who are loved but unattainable are the white moonlight, so in her brother's heart, she was that beam of white moonlight. She straightened her posture and looked at me challengingly. I quickly covered my son's mouth and said, "You're just half asleep, half asleep." Then I swiftly took him to the bathroom. Once inside the bathroom, I pretended to be angry and questioned him. "Sweetie, did you forget what Mommy told you yesterday?" Jasper pouted, recalling what Mommy had said the day before, and couldn't help muttering, "Can we still eat the food from yesterday today?" I was so angry it gave me a headache. After calming down for a while, I crouched down and patiently reminded, "Jasper, you and I are the most important people in Daddy's life. That so-called white moonlight is all in the past. Like you said, I had a big fight with Daddy over the music box and then got into a car accident when I went out, but yesterday, I talked to your daddy about the music box, and we didn't argue, so we won't end up as unwanted little beggars, understand? After all, he's still just a child. I didn't expect him to understand much." Jasper nodded blankly. As long as he remembered one thing, that was enough. He and his mother were the most important people in his father's life. I nodded in satisfaction. And after washing up, I went out with my son. George had already started looking for a new hotel. Wendy disagreed and kept shouting. The moment she saw me, she angrily pointed at me and questioned, "You think it's because of this woman, don't you, brother? We're family. Why are you treating me like this for the sake of this wicked woman?" She was so angry she was about to cry. I frowned. My disdainful look couldn't have been more obvious. This doesn't seem like the script of a bold and decisive female lead, but rather the script of a submissive wife, doesn't it? George's face darkened as he suppressed his temper and reminded her, "Wendy, have I not told you to call her sister-in-law? If you refuse to acknowledge her as your sister-in-law, then there's no need for you to call me brother either." He was furious, having reminded her several times since yesterday. The young lady should know her limits when throwing a tantrum. I gave my son a proud look, walked over to him, and said in a sweet voice, "Honey, it's fine, I'm younger than Wendy, so it's understandable if she doesn't want to call me sister-in-law." Her crying stopped abruptly. She glared at me angrily, wanting to scold me, but under someone's icy gaze, she reluctantly muttered the words, "Sister-in-law, what?" I couldn't hear very clearly, so I leaned my ear closer. She became even angrier, glaring furiously at my brother. George showed no expression, just lifted his chin slightly as if prompting her to say it again. She had no choice but to raise her voice. "Sister-in-law," I responded with a cheerful, "yes," laughing heartily. George was looking for a new hotel, this time specifically reminding the front desk that the security system must be top-notch. The woman sitting quietly on the sofa suddenly looked up and said, "Brother, take me home." Afraid of being misunderstood, she added, "To the old house." "Will you go with me? I want to apologize to Mom and Dad. The plot is developing a bit too fast. Logically speaking, it should have been when Wendy had a difficult childbirth, crying and calling for her mother, that her relationship with the Green family began to thaw. Only after Wendy became a mother herself did she understand the love her adoptive mother had for her. It took repeated apologies before she fully forgave her." George remained silent for a few seconds, then turned and went upstairs to change his clothes, signaling his agreement. The two elders in the Green family's old house heard that their beloved grandson was coming. They couldn't stop smiling and kept sending the servants to check if he had arrived yet. When he finally arrived at the doorstep, the servant saw the young master and beamed with joy, but upon spotting the other person getting out of the back seat, she was so startled that she rushed back into the old house. Mom Green asked happily when she saw the housekeeper, "Is Jasper here?" She started to get up as she spoke. Dad Goo also put down his newspaper, but the couple had barely taken a step when the housekeeper couldn't help but speak up. "Sir, madam, the young miss has also returned." They naturally knew exactly who this young miss referred to. Both froze in their tracks simultaneously, their joyful smiles vanishing instantly. When I entered, I saw my father-in-law and mother-in-law, who had always greeted me with smiles for the past 5 years, both looking darker than the other. Even when Jasper rushed up sweetly calling, "Grandpa, Grandma," they only managed a gentle smile. Wendy was hiding behind George, but as soon as she stepped inside, she wisely knelt down. Her tears seemed rather cheap at this moment, as little pearls kept falling incessantly. Each drop tugged at the heartstrings. I stole a glance at my in-laws, though their expressions remained unchanged. They couldn't help but sneak looks at their daughter, whose face was streaked with pear blossom-like tears. She said, "Mom, Dad, it's all my fault. I've already realized my mistake. It's all my fault for being so infatuated back then. I was so young and foolishly deceived by him, even shamelessly chasing after him abroad, bringing utter disgrace to the Green family. But Wendy knows she was wrong. From now on, Wendy will stay home obediently and not cause any trouble. Mom, please forgive Wendy." "Okay, if you don't forgive Wendy, I'll keep kneeling until you do." Although she was adopted, after all, she's the daughter they've raised for over a decade. Seeing her cry like this and visibly lose so much weight, the elderly couple was also heartbroken. Finally, Mother Green pretended to be angry and warned, "We'll forgive you this time, but if it happens again, your father and I will disown you and sever all ties with you." Wendy immediately nodded, stood up joyfully, and rushed into George's arms. She laughed and said, "Brother, we're finally a family again." "Wait, excuse me, is this right?" George's face turned cold as he frowned and pushed away, reminding, "Wendy, you're not a child anymore. There should be boundaries between men and women, so don't just hug me whenever you feel like it." Hearing this, her face instantly darkened, and she rolled her eyes, saying, "My sister-in-law is so stingy. My brother and I have been hugging since we were kids. I'm not angry. I'm really not angry." I widened my eyes like a resentful woman. The good grandson came back. The son and daughter-in-law also returned, and now even the daughter has come back. The elderly couple were overjoyed and insisted they stay at home. By evening, George had been plied with quite a bit of alcohol. He was drunkenly helped into the room by someone. Before even entering, I stood not far away and calmly reminded, "Miss Green, is it really appropriate for you to bring your unrelated brother into your own room?" Wendy's face stiffened as she turned to meet my gaze. I frowned, having just finished putting my son to sleep and wanting to remind George not to drink too much, only to see a sneaky figure as soon as I stepped out of the room. Upon closer inspection, I was truly on the verge of laughing in frustration. She was about to speak when George suddenly chimed in at just the right moment. Wife, hold me to sleep." I curled a smile, looking at the person in front of me who had turned red-eyed with anger at these words, and my smile widened even more, reaching out to pull George closer. I didn't forget to say, "Good boy, your wife is here to hold you." Behind me came Wendy's furious voice, "John, have you no shame? If it weren't for you clinging to me back then, my brother would never have even met you." I didn't argue back, because what she said was pretty much true. I transmigrated into this book when I was 16. I had no idea what I was supposed to do, just idling away each day watching the male and female leads flirt and bicker, until one day, I caught George delivering homework to Wendy, backlit. He wore a white shirt, his short hair not reaching his eyebrows, revealing his alluring peach blossom eyes and those adorable little dimples. My heart fluttered with springtime infatuation. I spent the whole day pestering the female lead with milk tea and snacks. From time to time, you can also see the female lead's brother, George, delivering breakfast, homework, and even taking her to school. I occasionally hitch a ride too, making sure to leave an impression in front of the devoted second male lead. The second male lead realized at the age of 22 that his feelings for his adopted sister weren't familial but romantic, and this year, he just happens to be 22. I was thinking about such a handsome and gentle second male lead, who ultimately died in a car accident to save the female lead. It really broke my heart, so I decided to cut the Gordian knot and nip his budding feelings for the female lead in the bud as soon as he realized them. I stopped pestering Wendy and openly started clinging to George instead. At first, he was quite impatient with me, throwing away the heart-shaped breakfasts and gifts I gave him. But isn't chasing a man just like piercing through a thin veil? I spent 3 months carving out a place for myself in his heart. Another 3 months passed, making him develop unusual feelings of longing for me, all while still trying to speed up the romance between the main couple. Then, after yet another 3 months, I used the tactic of playing hard to get, and George finally confessed his love to me. Even during the relationship, the PUA never stopped, almost turning him into an embryo. At the age of 20, I successfully got George to propose and marry me. At 21, I gave birth to Jasper. Over these years, I've perfectly experienced what it means to be the devoted second male lead. The next morning, George took me and our son back to his home under the pretext of work. As soon as we entered the bedroom, he was quite eager to finish what was left undone yesterday. 4 hours later, I passed out completely. When I came to, there were several messages on my phone, all from the same person. I wasn't surprised by the messages, but I was quite surprised by who sent them. It's Wendy. She had lost her usual arrogance, calling me sister-in-law repeatedly, asking what I was doing, if I had eaten, what I ate, and where my brother was. The last question was the most important. Her brother, that bastard, took a 2-hour break, had some fun, and then happily went back to work. Yawning, I got out of bed and went to the children's room to see my well-behaved son doing his homework. I nodded with satisfaction. John, am really lucky. I have an obedient husband and a sweet, sensible son. Tisk, tsk, tsk, this is what happiness looks like. Jasper looked up, glanced, and called out, Mom. Then he lowered his head again to work on his homework, muttering to himself, stupid dad, insisting I finish my homework before we go see the aurora. After leaving the children's room, I suddenly remembered Wendy's message and thoughtfully replied with a 1, just as I put down my phone. The sound of a car could already be heard at the door. I ran over with great excitement. I gave him a loud kiss on the cheek and said with a smile, Honey, you've worked hard. Welcome home. To free up time, George had been busy as soon as he arrived at the company, though he was quite tired. At this moment, he felt truly happy. During the meal, he suddenly remembered, tomorrow, take our son and accompany me to the banquet celebrating the 100th anniversary of the James family group's founding. I obediently responded with a couple of mms. George had a wrap-up meeting. By the time we arrived at the banquet, it was already halfway through. As soon as they saw George, several business partners came over to greet him. Over the years, I've attended quite a few banquets myself, but it was Jasper's first time. While others complimented me on my beauty as usual, they immediately started praising Jasper too. Jasper blushed at the compliments. I smiled. But my gaze suddenly stopped at a certain spot. It's Wendy. She stood among a group of men, smiling obsequiously. I know quite a few of those young masters. Almost all of them are from prominent and powerful families. Some are just playboys. George noticed something was off with me and followed my gaze. His eyes lingered on Wendy for a second, but he said nothing. It wasn't until he spotted an old friend that he turned his head and whispered, There's an old friend over there. I'm going to say hello. I nodded. The president of the James family group is good friends with George, and his wife and children also know me. The moment she saw me, Mrs. James excitedly greeted me. I thought you weren't coming. I laughed and said, How could I not come? Didn't I tell you yesterday that I would be here? I nudged Jasper's little arm, reminding him, Jasper, didn't you say it's been a long time since you've seen Lucky? Go play with her over there. Jasper nodded, blushing as he took Lucky's sister's hand. As soon as the others left, Mrs. James immediately warned, Has your husband's sister not seen a man in several lifetimes? I didn't understand. She recounted every detail from before the banquet began until after it ended. Wendy attended on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Green, but as soon as she entered, she practically ignored the older guests, while immediately flocking to the wealthy young heirs. This behavior made everyone else present feel disgusted. I frowned. I had known her before. Wasn't this character change a bit too drastic? Before I could think further, I suddenly noticed the person being stopped at the door. Mrs. James was the hostess of this banquet, and fearing something might go wrong, she instinctively moved to check the situation. I reached out to stop her. Wait here, my friend, I'll go check. I handed the juice to the waiter and immediately heard the man's furious voice as I approached. I already told you my wife is inside. Let me in. You have to let me in. After being held back for so long, he was getting impatient and seemed about to lose his temper. I frowned and spoke. Sam, what are you doing here? The one being stopped was Sam, who used to be in the same class as me. Along with Wendy, I had quite a few interactions with him. The moment he saw me, it was as if he had seen hope. I explained to the staff, Sorry, this is my friend. I've already spoken to Mrs. James. Mrs. James and I are old acquaintances and good friends. The staff recognized me and let go. Sam was about to rush in, but I quickly stopped him. Sam, this is a party hosted by my friend. I don't want you causing any trouble here. If there's something, you can talk about it after it's over. And also, what exactly happened between you and Wendy? I was genuinely curious. It was almost the end. Yet so many things were still happening. Mentioning Wendy, his face was flushed with anger and guilt. I found a quiet place. After all, we had been friends for nearly a decade, and nominally I was still Wendy's sister-in-law, so he didn't hold back and spilled everything at once. Actually, Wendy was in a car accident 2 months ago. I nodded in understanding. The book did mention the car accident, where the two realized they couldn't live without each other, and their love reached a new level. He continued, it was because of that accident that we realized we couldn't live without each other. We got married soon after and held the wedding a month ago. But 2 weeks ago, Wendy suddenly started throwing tantrums every day, complaining about the environment or saying the food was terrible. I've changed many nannies, but she still says the food is bad. I know, she's blaming me for not spending enough time with her. I happened to be at a critical point in my career during this period. I planned to spend more time with her once things settled down, but when I finally came home, all her belongings were gone, and she had disappeared. I managed to find her at a hotel, only for her to vanish again. When I heard she was attending a banquet here, I wanted to come and see her. After saying all this, he lowered his head in guilt. It's all my fault. I don't have the ability to provide for her, making Wendy, a young lady from a wealthy family, suffer with me. I listened quietly as he finished speaking, thinking of Wendy at the banquet, momentarily at a loss for words. Sam wasn't George. Without family support, he had truly built his success from scratch. Achieving what he had at this age was already quite remarkable. Moreover, in the original text, Wendy had never once looked down on Sam for his lack of money in the early days. He raised his head, seeming hesitant to speak, but finally said, that day at the hotel, the company suddenly called saying something had happened. Originally, I thought it would be good for both of us to cool off, but when I got home today, I found a pregnancy test in the bathroom. Wendy, she's pregnant. What? I was utterly shocked. This was completely beyond the script. Sis, it was all my fault before. I was too busy with work and didn't give her enough attention. I know I was wrong. Can you let Wendy see me? I want to explain things face to face. She blocked me and even sent me a divorce agreement. When George came to me, I was so shocked that I couldn't speak, and I also looked at him with some hesitation, but in the end, I couldn't hold back anything. Such news couldn't be hidden from the Green family. As soon as Wendy returned home, Mr. and Mrs. Green sternly commanded, kneel down. She was so startled that she trembled and immediately knelt down. Completely unaware of what was happening, Mother Green got straight to the point. Wendy, you're pregnant, aren't you? Don't deny it. I've already checked with the hospital. You're 1.5 months along. Wendy widened her eyes in shock, utterly baffled as to how this was discovered. She turned and saw me in the corner, then instantly tried to grab me, only to be shoved away by George. She cursed angrily, you bitch. It must be you who said something in front of my mom, you jinx, you bitch. Her words were extremely foul, and the next second, she was slapped hard. She instantly fell to the ground in disarray. The man's face turned cold as he clenched his fists. Wendy, haven't you caused enough trouble? It was George, his expression dark with disappointment as he glared at her. Wendy stood frozen in place. Since childhood, her brother had never laid a hand on her. Even when she had fought with their parents and threatened to sever ties, he had only spoken a few harsh words. Now, she had merely said a few things about this woman. Her beloved brother hit her. Her eyes instantly welled up with tears, and she wanted to speak, feeling deeply wronged. Dad Green was furious and demanded, you used to be desperate to be with that Sam, and now you've gotten your wish. You're together and have your own child. What are you making a fuss about now? You're already so grown up. Can't you be a bit more sensible? After all, Green's mother is still a mother. Learning that her daughter was pregnant naturally made her happy, but upon hearing that her daughter was seeking a divorce, saying she wasn't angry would be a lie, suppressing her emotions. She patiently asked, Wendy, tell me, why do you want to divorce Sam? Did he do something wrong to you, or is it something else? Although we weren't entirely satisfied with Sam before, over the years, he's made it a point to send gifts to our home during holidays for your sake, and he personally came to invite us when you got married. I can see that his character is good, both your father and I can tell, so what on earth is the reason? Wendy covered half her face, furious and shouting. Are you my parents or Sam's parents? Before the elders could speak, she burst out angrily again, so what if I'm pregnant? I never said I would keep this child. As soon as the words left her mouth, she was slapped hard again. Father Green was so furious that he clutched his chest and pointed at the door, shouting, get out of here. The Green family has no daughter like you, get out. The incident at the banquet had already spread like wildfire. And the elderly couple were already upset about it. Now, with this happening, their anger only grew. Wendy froze in place, crying as she said, fine, I'll leave then. She turned and rushed out of the Green family home. I spent quite some time comforting them before the elderly couple finally calmed down. They were just speaking in the heat of the moment. As Wendy was leaving, George sent her a message telling her to wait outside. So the moment he stepped out of the Green residence, he saw Wendy squatting outside. The moment she saw her brother, she burst into tears and rushed forward for a hug. The next second, he saw my face instantly darken. What are you doing out here, woman? To laugh at me, I waved my hand and said, don't, I'm not interested in such jokes, though I don't understand what happened between them, if it weren't for the fact that those two elders were her adoptive parents, and George's biological parents, my parents-in-law. I don't want to get involved in her affairs at all. George booked a hotel, continuing to lecture along the way. Wendy, you're not a child anymore. I've been wanting to tell you at the banquet. 5 or 6 of those young gentlemen are playboys. Standing with them will ruin your reputation too. I don't understand what happened between you and Sam, but you're an adult now. You need to take responsibility for your actions. Not like when you were little, always running to others when something went wrong. Although I'm your brother, I can't take care of you forever. She said a lot. Wendy didn't say a word, and no one knew if she had listened. When they arrived at the hotel, she stormed into the hotel in a huff. George stopped what he was about to say. Just as we entered the hotel, a figure rushed forward and pulled Wendy into a tight embrace. I instinctively moved to intervene but was held back by the man beside me. Only then did I realize the person was Sam. Wendy screamed in fright, but her face instantly turned cold the moment she heard the man's voice. Let me go, let me go. Sam didn't dare to release her, afraid that if he did, she would disappear again. He could only keep apologizing, over and over, pleading humbly, I'm sorry Wendy, it's all my fault, it's all because I can't give you the best life, but you have to believe me, I'll soon be able to give you the life you want. Can you please not leave me? Our child can't grow up without a father either. He kept apologizing, but the woman in his arms suddenly let out a mocking laugh. Sam gradually loosened his grip. Wendy immediately broke free, turned around, and slapped him across the face, sneering with contempt. How long am I supposed to wait? 5 years, 10, or 20? Why should I wait for an uncertain future because of you, Sam? I did love you once, but who do you think you are? What makes you think I'd give up the wealthy and powerful Green family for you? As for the child you mentioned, I had it aborted long ago. There is no child between us anymore. With that, she pulled an abortion report from her bag and threw it in his face. Fearing that her pregnancy would be discovered, she immediately switched to another hospital for the abortion procedure. At these words, everyone froze in shock, including me. I looked at George in astonishment. George remained expressionless. It was he who had called Sam. He didn't know about the abortion, but he thought it was a matter between the two of them and should be resolved by themselves. Sam refused to believe it and read the report over and over again, until he was truly certain that the child had been aborted. He struggled to stand steadily, desperately suppressing the rising fury in his heart, only trembling as he asked, Wendy, I know it's my fault. I made you feel insecure. It's okay. We can have another child in the future. Will you come home with me? If you don't like the food the nanny makes, it's fine. I'll learn to cook the dishes you love. Will you try them and see if they're good? He bowed his head humbly, pleading with a voice choked with sobs. Wendy froze, the bitterness in her heart surging to her head. She turned away and lashed out without hesitation. Sam, I don't love you anymore. How shameless can you be, clinging to me like this? I never truly loved you. I just felt trapped by the obsession of our 10-year entanglement. I don't love you. I never loved you. Can't you just wake up and see that? Sam froze, lifting his head in bewilderment, unwilling to believe her words, yet her gaze unmistakably told him the truth. She had never loved him. He completely lost his mind, gripping her shoulders tightly, demanding answers with each word. Why? Just why? Why don't you love me anymore? And our child? I'm the father too. Did you ever think of me when you decided to abort the child? Wendy, how dare you make the decision to abort my child without my consent? The work pressure had already been overwhelming lately, and her sudden attitude added to it. suffocating him, but now, he no longer had to worry about suffocating. It seemed like the very meaning of his life had vanished in this moment. He became like a madman desperate to uncover the truth. People around called the police and hurriedly tried to stop him. The released Wendy laughed maniacally, but as she laughed, tears began to fall. She demanded, "Why, blame the aftermath of that car accident. I saw our future life. I would have to stay with you for 5 more years, a full 5 years before I could live the luxurious life John has. Maybe the life you could give me in those 5 years wouldn't be bad, but I refuse, because the Green family can give me the best, and what's more, I'm the female lead in this story. Why should my life be worse than a supporting character's? So whether you hate me or love me, I don't care." She admitted it. She was jealous of John, had been for the past 10 years, jealous that she stole her brother's love, her parents' love. She is clearly the heiress of the Green family, yet everyone in the Green household favors her. So, upon discovering she's the main heroine of the entire story, how could she possibly be content with her current life? Why should her life be inferior to that of John, a mere supporting female character? My pupils dilated in shock. No, so is this some kind of awakening? This farce ultimately ended with the police. Perhaps it was lingering thoughts of those insignificant past affections. Wendy only said it was a minor conflict between husband and wife. But Sam was still detained for 15 days, during those 15 days in jail. He signed the divorce papers Wendy had handed him several times, yet he couldn't accept it in his heart. On the day he was released from prison, I arrived at the prison gate and handed him a letter, saying, "Wendy, she has already gone abroad. This letter is from her to you. Perhaps you two were never truly compatible from the start, and forcing a relationship would never have brought happiness. Maybe it's for the best that you've parted ways now. Sam, you're truly remarkable. You've built such a vast empire entirely on your own, so there's no need for you to belittle yourself. Stay strong, your life is long, and you'll meet many people and experience many things. Wendy is just one passerby in your journey. They were never really suited for each other from the start. They were mismatched from the very beginning. Their entanglement for 10 years was merely an obsession in their hearts. Now that they're still young, parting ways early will allow them to lead different lives." I don't know if he took my words to heart, but a man in the car gave me several impatient glances. Finally, I smiled and said goodbye, and walked away without looking back, because this wouldn't be our last meeting. The day before going to see the aurora, George pestered me over and over again. Along the way, he kept getting jealous, talking about how I smiled and said goodbye. He said I had never smiled at him so tenderly before. I was both angry and amused, so I indulged him, got up early again to board the plane. Just when I went to the children's room to call Jasper, a small notebook emerged from under his pillow, with bold letters written on it. After the redemption story ended, my 5-year-old son said he was reborn. It was signed with the crooked characters, Little Lucky. I forced out a helpless smile. That kid Lucky, though young, is quite the clever little imp. No wonder Jasper said all that nonsense after seeing this. But it was still a relief. Whenever I had free time during this period, I couldn't help but think about my son saying he had become a beggar and starved to death. Every time I recall it, my heart aches unbearably. I crouched down, smiled, and kissed his cheek. "Jasper, be good. It's time to get up and see the aurora." George leaned against the doorframe. Watching the scene of his lover kissing their son, he smiled gently yet unrestrainedly. No one knew that he had also awakened to the role of the devoted second male lead. He knew it all too clearly. His every morning saved him with love. It brought fulfillment to his entire life. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.